How is it going? I am excited to be here. We're going to be doing a lot of coding. It should be kind of fun. If Amanda starts snoring during it, it's going to be even funner because she loves to code. And so she might be good. Today we're going to be starting off from where we left off previously. We made this really cool, I don't know if it's really cool, but we made a application to store contacts. And what we're going to do is we're going to, if you remember before, you'll be able to see on tv.devexpress.com, we saved these reports to a file, which is not ideal. Today I'm going to show you how to load them and save them from a database using XPO. It should be informative. There's maybe one glitch at the end that hopefully I'll be able to work out, but other than that, everything should work pretty smoothly. So let me show you how to get started here with this example. Okay, we're going to go to IDE 20017, which is the example that we're going to be loading from, called the Embedded End User Report Demonstration. I'm going to download the example, hit save, and as soon as it's done loading, I'm going to click it. And if you've installed the example runner, what it will do is it will automatically go ahead and fix everything for you and load it up. Looks like it loaded it up on my other screen. Let me bring it over. Incidentally, if you have any questions during the demonstration, please let me know. Okay, so there it is. It loaded up this project, E20017. I'm going to hit play. And then you're going to see there's this little application that I wrote before. As a reminder, I'm going to add someone here. So and let's go ahead and get some image data here. Here's some pictures. Will you look? I'll be this guy right here. Let's hit save. Let's add Amanda. Miss Amanda. Oh, Amanda. We'll add her address here so everyone can stalk her. I'm just kidding, that's not her address. And let's make her the old lady. And let's hit save. Okay, so notice that this application is pretty simple. All it has is people and also categories. So let's make sure we can add a category here to friends. We'll add it. It belongs to friends. Let's hit save. Amanda, let's close this up and open it up. And there's friends and coworkers. Let's add this one and hit save. Okay. So notice this application is pretty simple. It's got categorized people, and we have one coworker and one friend. Now, as you recall, we had this create report thing, and this create report thing opened the end user report designer, but saved the things to a file. Okay, a little reminder of what the code is doing. Okay. As you can see, we have pretty much some code that loads designers by type, loads previews, loads menus in the report, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to go ahead and write some code to deal primarily with the reports. Okay, so we're going to add a new item, and this new item is going to be an XPO object. Okay, the difference between an XPO object and a class is the XPO class is generated from an existing database. So that's what happens there. We're going to do the object, and we're going to call it report. All right, so we have this XPO class called report, and we're going to add a couple of properties that we'd like to save. Like, for example, XPS name, which does the name of the report. No, let's change that to URL. Let me do that again and change it to URL. So the URL of the report. The next one we're going to do is a created and modified date. So XP date created, and then we're going to do here XP date modified, and we're going to add an XPS type. Okay, and we're going to change the type to report type. Report type. Okay, and there it is. I think that should be enough. We have a name, a URL, a created, and a modified. Okay. So when we save, the most important thing also, almost forgot. We're going to say content, and we're going to make this a byte array. That's the actual database content that we're going to be storing here. So let me move this out. Okay, there we go. All right, so this is the actual content or the byte array of data that we're going to be storing here. Any questions so far?
And thus far.
Perfect. Okay, so let's to review what we've done so far is we have a report class to save reports. We have when we created, when we created it, when we modified it, the type, and the content. And this is what's going to be sort of the crux of what it is that we're storing. So let's go ahead and rebuild this, make sure everything's good. All right. The next thing we need to do is we need to have a way or a mechanism to open and close reports, so that there's got to be some kind of dialogue, dialog box where we can open and close these things. So we're going to build that next, and it's going to be based off of this XPO class. All right, so we're going to create a form called report dialog. Okay, so let me do that right now. So I'm going to add a new item. It's going to be a DevExpress form, and we're going to call it report dialog. Okay. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to have a way to enumerate the reports here. So to do that, I'm going to put a grid onto this form. I'm going to close these. Boy, we have so many good things that we build. Holy cow. Now I need to find what I want, which is right here. There you go. This particular grid is going to display the reports that we have, okay, and the reports that we want to open up. So we're going to go here and change the name of this to a grid reports, and I'm going to change this grid view to grid view reports. We need to add a data source to populate it. That's going to be an XP collection, so I'm going to drag it on there. And I'm going to call this collection reports, right? And the object that it's going to be bound or sort of represent, it goes here in the object class info. Let me rebuild this so we can get a little context. Select this again, and the object class info should pop up, and that's what we want, report. Okay. Once we do that, we can go here and set the data source of this particular grid to the reports collection. Notice that it loads up everything that we want. We don't want this field, right? And this field we can leave as it is, and the appearance is make sure that the text options are all set. Everything looks good. Okay. So this is going to display the reports as we save them and load them. Another thing that we need to do is we need to make sure that nobody can change the contents, because that's just a particular use case that I'm doing. And in order to do that, you go down here, and there are these tons of options for the grid. We've been incidentally doing grids for over a decade, and so we have some of the best, I think the best grid in the world. So let me go down and do some customization. Nope. Detail. Nope. Filter. No, we don't need that. Hint, layout. Selection. Right. We want to make sure that all of this is set. The options view. Looks like everything is good. Let's see. Navigation. Yeah, it looks like everything's good. Menu. All right. I think that's good. The only thing that I need to find now is coloring the rows. And let's see if I can find that real quick. There it is. There's the print. And then there's one more that we want to set, which is, there it is. And so that's all set. show footer. Very good. Okay, so that's good. So let's hit close, and that's all saved. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to be able to have a file name here and a couple of buttons to say OK and cancel. So we're going to go up and go to the default stuff. We have a button here and another button here. Okay. So I'm going to say this is OK. This is the OK button, and this is the cancel button. And we're going to set the text property to OK here and cancel here. And let me bring this up. And now all we need is a text box right here to have the current file name. So let me show you. Let me get that on there. Okay, and that particular item is going to be called text file name or report. All right, so this report dialog, we want to make sure that it sizes properly. So we're going to set the anchor properties here to something useful. These are going to be anchored to the bottom right. This is going to be anchored to the bottom right as well. And this dude is going to be anchored to the bottom as well, like so. So when we resize it, it should resize in a happy manner. Okay, very good. Now we need to go into the actual code and do a little work. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some properties that are, I think, important, because then that means we can do a couple of things. Let me close that. We can do a couple of things with this report dialog. We want to be able to open and close reports. And the thing about it is we don't want to have two dialogues, one for open, one for close. So I'm going to have this open mode that I'm going to set up. So we're going to say open. It's going to be an open mode, or it's not going to be open mode. It's going to be open a file or save a file. Okay, and I'm going to put some code in here that tells you what's going on. So for example, all open mode says is that if it's open mode, right, that means that we cannot type in, we want to be able to select a file and not type one in this particular instance, because all the reports are going to be enumerated in a grid. And so when I say open mode, that just means that it's not enabled, right? If it's not enabled, the text report, that means that we're in open mode. We get the value here. If open mode is true, we set this to open report. Otherwise, let's save it to save report. Okay, and then we set the enabled to not value, right? Because if it's in open mode, right, that means that we don't want this to be enabled, right? So if this is true, we want this to be false, and that's what's going on there. And then we have this this report name that we want to be able to extract from this little dialog, and that's just coming directly from the text box. Okay, now we have the open, we have the OK and the cancel, and I'm just going to do something here that that just says what the dialog result is. Now I know you can set the form OK and cancel properties, but this is faster. Okay, so that's about it for this particular dialog, with the exception that we need to pass it in a XP collection. And we're going to do of type report. And let's just call it collection. And let's make it a optional parameter. And we're going to have a private version of this that's sitting around. reports, and then when we bind it up, we say reports equals collection. Right, and then we need to say, we need to tell the grid reports dot data source equals reports. All right, that way we can pass a reference around. We don't have to pull stuff out of the database every time, kind of thing. All right. Obviously, there's more we can do here. There can be a refresh button. There's tons of stuff you can do here. But again, we want to be simplified with what's going on. And then we also have to handle one last event, and that event is that a row is clicked, right? Because when a row is clicked, that means that. Oh, sorry, I want to be on the grid view. When a row is clicked, that means we want to be able to just to know what particular report has been loaded. And the easiest way to do it is to say var r equals, and then inside of our reports instance, right, we want to get the grid. We want the grid view reports dot, and there's a couple of methods that you can use to get the data source. I'm going to use get data source index, right? And we know the row handle by the event that's passed in, right, which is that, and there you go, right? So now that we have that, we can say that the text report.text equals, remember this is the XPO object, so it's going to be the report name, I'm sorry, URL. And then we're going to say, well, if you're in open mode, then when you click it, we're just going to go ahead and fire the OK button. This, and then we're going to say event args.empty. Okay? So pretty much what we're saying is, okay, when you click on a row, we're going to get that row by the row handle, right? And then we're going to get the index, and then we're going to pass it into this reports, which happens to be, you remember, the one we're binding now. And we set the URL to text, and then we hit the OK. Oh, I said cancel. I said OK, but for some reason I canceled. Okay, so let's build that and make sure it works. Okay, we've spent a minute working on this form, right? And this is our report dialog. Okay. All right, so that was the second thing we needed to do. The next thing we need to do is now we need to sort of wire this thing up so that it automatically communicates with the end user report designer when we save and load things. We're going to do this incrementally. So we're going to add a class, and we're going to call it contact report storage extension. Whew, that's a long one. And we're going to inherit from a particular class, and this class is it's a report storage extension class. So let's set it up. Report storage extension, right? And then I hit this. That's what we're doing. Let's see what CodeRush says to add a constructor. Nah, not important. And then let's change this to public. Very good. Okay. So we're going to go through these methods, and I'm going to explain to you what each one of them does. In essence, this class is in charge of getting new reports and saving new reports. When you do that, we want to be able to bypass the standard way of saving things by saving them into files, etc., into saving them however we want. Now, in my particular example, we are saving them into the database. You could save them to whatever you want. You can do whatever you want in this particular extension. And so some might say, well, you have to write a lot of code. Well, if you think about it, we're allowing you the maximum amount of flexibility that you can have. And so my job is to show you how to do it. So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is we want to be able to have a collection sort of sitting around of report. Right, so we got that, and we got that, and we're going to call it the report storage. This is where our reports are going to be. Then we're going to create a constructor for this class, right? And then we're going to new up the report storage. Now, there again, I'm eliding a lot of things regarding XPO in particular. You might want to be a little bit more clever about the sessions and how you manage the sessions in XPO in order to get better transactions and that sort of thing. But again, I'm eliding that just for demonstration purposes of the report. Okay. Now, we're going to override some methods. And as I go through them, I'm going to try to explain what each one of them does. So the first one we're going to override is can set data. In essence, this is an interesting kind of method because it's saying, okay, given this report name, can I change it? Right? So you can set some fine-grained permissions here if you so choose. I'm going to say no. I'm just going to say, yeah, you can do that. The next thing we're going to do is override the next one, which is going to be get data. Right? Get data says, okay, given a URL, give me the report, or give me the report in its binary stream. Okay, so let's do that right now. So it's going to be pretty simple. What we're going to do is we're going to say var report equals, and then I'm going to do a little parentheses here, and I'm going to say from p in report storage, right? And we're going to say where p dot URL equals URL select p. Right, and then I'm going to say first or default, right? Because we only want the first one in this particular instance. We should guard against incidentally having multiple copies of this. Okay, so once we have that, notice that we have a report object, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to say, okay, return if report is null, right? Which means that it didn't find it. What we're going to do is we're just going to return an empty array of bytes. Otherwise, we're going to return report dot, I think I called it content. There it is. And notice that's a byte array. So notice that all this is doing is saying, okay, give me the report bytes, right? In fact, you know what? We could probably extract a method on this like so, because we'll probably use this again. Okay, so let me go back to the marker that it dropped. That was CodeRush being very helpful, right? Because notice that we might use this again as we go along. Okay. Now here is the next method that we're going to override. All right, and we're going to override the get new URL. Right? This particular method is getting a report, opening a report, right? And we'll see as we'll step through this to make sure that it makes sense. So we're gonna open a report dialog, right? Dialog equals new report dialog. Notice that we want to pass in our report storage, and then we also want to say the following, right? We don't have a report name for it yet, so we'll leave it blank. But we're going to say that we're in open mode, right? Because when we say get new URL, in essence, we're just opening a new report, right? So we're getting a new report that we're working with, and that's coming out of the storage. We're going to say if dialog.showDialog equals this. Okay, then we're going to do something. And string.empty means that there's nothing to show, right? We're going to say return dialog.report name. Okay. Okay, so far, so good. The next one we're going to override is valid URL. Now this is just saying, hey, is it a valid URL or not? I'm just going to do something. If it's not, string has some cool methods, right? Like is default or is null or empty. And if it's not any of these things, then we're good, right? Is null or white space URL. Okay, so notice that all this is saying is, hey, look, it's valid if it's, if it's something useful. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is there's two more methods that we're going to look at. Obviously, there's others, but I want to just focus on these couple because we're already halfway through and I want to get this to work. So override, and there's something called set data. Now, this particular report, this particular method allows you to actually save the report out to the binary stream, right? You remember that we created this get report method, right? We want to see if this report exists, right? Because if it exists, then what we're doing is we're updating it. If it doesn't exist, then we're making a new one. And I think that's the important point here that's going on. Okay, so get report URL var. If this is null, right, then we're going to make a new one. And if it is null, then we're going to. I'm sorry, I think I got that backwards. If it's null, it doesn't exist, so we need to add it. If it's not null, we need to update it. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to serialize the report somehow. Let me show you how to do that in a really quick way. So we're going to say if using var stream equals new memory stream, and this is coming out of the system.io, right? What we can do is we can say, okay, report.save layout, and we can save it to the stream, right? And then I'm going to say var report layout equals var report layout equals new byte, like that. It's going to be empty, and then here report layout is going to equal the stream dot 2byte to array. Okay, this again might be useful again, so I'm going to extract a method to do that. And I'm going to put it here, and we're going to call it get layout bits. And instead of doing this here, I'm just going to say return, right? And then we need to make this a byte array. Whew! Okay. And I'm going to say var, oops, nope, that's not what I wanted. It could have been static, but I'm not going to make it static because I don't want it to be static. So layout equals this, and there you go. Okay, so now we have the array of the byte array of the report and what the layout looks like. So now we just need to either update or save. If var does not equal null, meaning we already have it, right? Then what we need to do is we just need to update it. So we're going to say r.content equals the layout, right? We're going to say r.modified equals datetime.now. And then we're going to say r.save because we can. Else, this is a brand new report. R equals new report. Right, and what we need to do is we need to say content equals report or layout. I think it was layout. Yeah. Then we have URL equals the URL that we're passing in. Created equals datetime.now. Oops, not a semicolon. Modified equals datetime.now. And the type equals, well, we need to know what type the report is. Get type. If that type equals type of person report, then we're going to say report type dot person, otherwise report type dot category. Okay. Oh, now we need to save it. R.save. So again, a little bit of code, right? What we're saying is, hey, let's get the bits. If this report we don't find it in our database, then if it's not null, we found it, then we're just going to go ahead and update. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and add a new one. All right. The last method that we're going to look at is this method right here, override. And we want to do the set new data, which is we're saving a brand new file. or so we think. And what we do is we go ahead and open the report dialog that we set up. And I'm going to say report dialog. Pass it in the report storage, right? And then we're going to say, hey, you know what? The report name is this default URL, which is what the default name is going to be, and open mode is definitely not true. Because this isn't open mode, this is a save kind of mode, so we're going to say false. And there you go. Oh, don't forget semicolon, and then we're going to open the dialog, dialog.open or show dialog equals dialog result.ok, meaning that somebody okay to change. Oh. Okay. So if they said okay, then what we need to do is we need to get the name of the report that they have typed in, and that's going to be in the dialog.report name, right? And what we're going to say is, hey, let's check if this report exists. Get report URL, right? If it's a valid URL, so if this report already exists, we're not going to, in this particular instance, allow them to overwrite. You could definitely allow them to do that in this particular case. So I'm going to first say if it's a valid URL, and r equals null, meaning it doesn't exist, then we'll do it. Otherwise, we'll just show something. And I'll just say oops. Okay. Otherwise, all we need to do is we just say, hey, the report, the display name is what the URL is that we decided to save it as. We're going to set the data, right, of the report. We're going to give it the URL, and then we're just going to return the URL, right? Because you remember the set data did both, save and load. Okay. All right. Now let's wire it up and see what happens. So just as a recap, holy cow, we wrote 100 lines of code. Just as a recap, we have this can set data, which means can you change it? We have this, this was automatically generated. This is a helper function for us. Get data means get the bits of the report based upon the URL, right? Get new URL means we're opening a file, right? So we're in open mode. Is valid URL is just a simple check to make sure everything's kosher. Get layout bits is save the layout of the report to an array. Set data is this multi-purpose function that we're using to either update or create a new report. And set new data is a saving mechanism for new reports. All right. The last thing we need to do is let's go into the code here. We need to set the report extension. We need to be able to tell this report, hey, make sure to use this extension when you're saving reports. So what we're going to do is we're going to say report storage extension, right? And we're going to say register a global extension, and we're going to call it the new, what did I call it? Contact. There it is. Whew. I think we're ready. Let's build it and see what happens. All right, so the code is good. Now, 5, there it is. Yeah, I need to refresh the collection and load it up. All right, so there is the report as we had saved it. Okay, so let me pause right here and just sort of go through it one more time. Now, I did do a write-up on this a little bit ago, but I think it's important to know what's going on and why we did it this way. There is a lot of extensibility that can happen if you do it this way. There's two other methods that we can talk about what's going on and why you would use them. But I think the important part is this report storage extension allows you to pretty much circumvent the way any reports are stored or loaded. And I think that's an important message. So let me go through each one and do a little reminder. So the first thing is the can't set data. This, I think the important thing here is, can I update / change this report? This is the actual name of the report, and this returns or true or false, right? The next thing is, this is a little helper function that that I built. Well, I didn't. CodeRush did. This one is saying, get the report layout array by name, right? And the URL would be the name of the report. And then it returns the bits. Okay, the next one is this one. This is a open a file. What it does is it returns the name of the file to open, right? Because when you're getting the file, and this might be misleading, but notice that it's just saying we want a new name to work with. What is it, right? This is a simple helper function that's in there. Is this name valid? For example, you might have some strict rules regarding how the reports need to be saved, and specifically what names need to be sort of put in here. Okay, this was the helper function that CodeRush set up, and all it does is convert. Oops. Oh wow, that was cool. Convert report to array, right, for the layout array, and then it gets the report in question, and it returns the bits. So I'm just going to say layout bits. Okay. This I think is very useful, going through and just sort of marking up what's going on. Okay. This, remember, is the multi-purpose function, right? Save a report, and this includes either an update or a new, right? And what it does is it takes the report itself and the name of the report, and that's it. Okay. All right. And notice again, we're getting the layout bits, we're getting the report name. If the report is not null, it means it's an update. If it is null, it means it's a new, and we do it that way. Okay. Okay, the set new data is when we're saving a new report, right? Notice that I have some weird constraints here. You're obviously welcome to change that, but we pass in the report in question. The default URL is what's the default name. Now, again, if you remember from last time when we did this, we had this report service, right? Notice that the default name, right, was being set by this person report service. Every time a new person report was spun up, this person report type service, person report service, newed up the report for us, okay? All right, so let's go back here. So the default name will always be what's coming from these report services that we built last time. So this would be the report name. But notice that the default is not necessarily what we want. So what we do is we open the dialog, we give it the default name, right? If they click OK, we fetch the report name from the form. We check to see if this report exists. If it does exist and it meets our criteria, then we go ahead and set the data. Now this is obviously something you could do better in this area. There's a lot more logic you can put in here with your business, because notice that what I'm saying is look, if it already exists, just say oops, which is kind of lame, right? Because you want to be able to overwrite reports that you've done before. And there you go. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set some breakpoints everywhere and go through the entire process. Okay, because there's this person report service that's also important. There is this contact report storage extension, right? That's also important. Notice that I should probably be refreshing stuff here. For example, when we're opening dialogues, right? So I should probably say something like report storage dot reload or something. I'll do that just for consistency here. So anytime we open the report dialog, right, which is, I'll set a breakpoint here also. Set a breakpoint. No, that was a helper function. That was a helper function. Let's set the can set data here. Let's go over here to, there's a dialog again, right? Make sure we reload the report storage and pass in a valid report storage and set a breakpoint here. And there you go. So let's go through the entire process again of what is going on so that we can sort of get a feel for how this sort of process goes in and out. Okay, let's hit play. So I am going to create a report by person. Notice that the report service, maybe let me step back and actually go into main, right? So that you can see where it's even going before that, right? So let's hit play. Okay, let's hit this. Oh, I don't know why I'm hitting that. So we're going to create report by person, right? There you go. We're going to load it up. There's the form. There's the controller. Notice that we're saying what report type. When we're adding a report type, we're saying to the design controller, hey, use the report type service when you're doing this, right? So that when you're spawning up new things, we can do that. Notice that when it's saying, hey, I need to get a default report, person, okay, here's the default report, here's the load data source, return R, boom, there we go. So there is a new one. Let's go ahead and hit first name and last name, and let's go ahead and save it. And notice that when we save it, we're going to set new data. We have a dialog here, right? That's going to come up. Hit F5. The dialog comes up and says, hey, here's a new report, lame report number 2. Right? Hit OK. There is the report name. We're going to save it. Right? So there it is. This is kind of redundant. You probably noticed. Get the layout bits, new report, save, 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 return the URL, and life is good. Okay, now let's do something a little tricky because I want to show you something that looks wrong. Okay, when I go to by person and load it up, one of the problems that you're going to see is, let's open this up. Let's open lame report 1. Okay, do you see a problem? Uh-oh, how do we fix this, right? I think what we need to do is let's add a little smarts to our logic, right? Remember, this by person report and by category report previously, what we did is we loaded the files up over here. So let's fix that. So let's go to the main over here. Remember there was this load report menu. Let's go to definition. Well, what am I doing? Seriously, CodeRush is so cool. So notice that what we're doing is we are adding the report menu, right? Before we were enumerating files, right? Now what we need to do is we need to go ahead and instead of enumerating files, what we want to do is we want to go ahead and add the reports from the database, right? So let's do that. Let's say XP collection, right, of report. Oh, I spelt it wrong. Oh, I think I just created a class. How embarrassing. Did I just create a class? XP yeah, there it is. Dang it. Oh, I'm just going to hit delete because, oops. All right, so XP collection report, and then reports equals new, boom, boom. right? And we're just going to say, I wonder if you can just say reports.load or something. Hey, look at that. Isn't that great? That's cool. Let's hit load, and there you go. What we're going to do now is instead of going through each F in there, we're going to say for each R in reports. Right? So there it is. There's going to be some weirdness here, right? So we want the caption. So this is going to say F, right? So we want to make sure that the tag, right, is F dot. Oh, I'm sorry, R dot. We're going to do the type, okay? Because the type will probably be the most helpful, right? Then the tag, what we're going to do. Hold on, I want to go back to that. Okay, so notice that we're creating a new sub item, right, for the menu bar, right? And the sub item is going to be R dot report name. Report name, right? Uh-oh. Am I missing something here? What is this type here? Yeah. R, new, caption. So we're going to say R dot, URL. What am I thinking? Okay. So there's going to be an edit, right? There's going to be a type in the tag, right? Here is going to be the, we're going to leave this as the R dot. I think before we just left the name. So let's just do URL. No, there's more we can do. Let's just set the tag to the whole thing here. Let's set the tag to the whole thing here. The caption here is simply going to be the R dot URL, and I think that'll work, right? There's going to be some errors because we're going to have to handle this preview click and this edit click. Okay, so let's hit play. So again, all this is doing is, if you remember the last, hopefully you took a look at the last one we did. All this did is it just went through all of the reports that existed and created buttons. So let's load this up. Let me hit the breakpoint here. Was this already running or something? Let's hit save. Let's hit rebuild. Make sure it builds. Rebuild. Uh-oh, is Visual Studio being weird to me? Oh, right when I almost got it to work. All right, let's hit play. Oh, you're kidding me. I might have to reopen this. Well, that stinks. Let me go ahead and open the folder and go back here. That way, when I close this, I can open it again, because that's weird. Uh-oh. Yeah, Visual Studio is having issues. I am like 4 minutes away from greatness on this particular app. Goodness me. So let's see. Let's go to Visual Studio. It's probably the one with the most memory. Yes, you little pig. Let's hit close you. Yes. Okay. And let's load it up again. Are there any questions so far?
There are no questions so far.
Look at that. I tell you what.
Can you believe it?
Can't believe it. Let's see the code and make sure that it took. Yeah, looks like it took. Good, so it saved it. So let's hit play. Now, let me hit a breakpoint here because, I forgot. Didn't hit a breakpoint, right? So notice that it's doing the lane. There it is, right? Notice it's loading these particular things. Now, when we hit the edit of these buttons, let's make sure that there is a, let's see. So where is this? There it is. Let's hit a breakpoint. And where is this? There it is. Okay. So notice that we don't want to do this to tag thing anymore, right? Because notice that that probably will not work. So what we're going to do is we're going to change this, right? Because now it's going to be a report, right? We're going to say this as report, right? That's not going to be okay with it, but we're going to have to fix it as report. Okay. So let's go to the load preview and hit tab. Oops, Control Z. Let's go to load preview. It's not going to find CodeRush is not going to find it because I just broke it, right? And so what we're going to say instead of string URL is we're going to say is report R, right? Okay. So we're going to say report. Well, we can go ahead and do all of this stuff, right? Because we have to change our preview control. So let's go to definition and pass in the report R. Because remember, before we were just passing in a string. So let's go to the definition here. The preview control, and instead of this, we're going to say report, yes, that, right, and we're going to say this, this, okay, and we're going to say if report does not equal null, what we're going to do is we're going to load a report. Oh, I know what we'll do. We're going to say this. If report, report dot type equals report type dot category, right? We're going to say you are going to be a new category report, right? Otherwise, you're going to be a new person report. Okay. Why are we not okay? For category. Why is that a category report? Oh, we'll just do this. I'll say this, extra report. Looks like we can do that. Let's rebuild. Uh-oh. Well, we're just going to have to do an if-else. So if report type equals report dot category, right? Then we're going to do that. Else we're going to do something else because we only have two kinds of reports, right? And what we're going to do is we're going to set this over here. Like this. And we're going to leave these guys, we're going to leave this right here. And what I'm going to say is report equals new category report. And here we're going to say report equals new person report. All righty. Okay, so notice that we had to change the way we reload reports. Okay, the next thing we need to do is we need to change the way, because notice this is okay now. Got that. The next thing we need to do is we need to change the way we load the designer, right? So because we want to change, let's say report. Okay. All right. So we could do this as well. Looks like we're creating a form here. Oh, this is to load a new one, right? This is to load one already that is in there, right? And so we're going to go to the editor control and we're going to pass in this report, right? So we need to go there to the control itself, and instead of URL, we're going to do the same things we did before, right? Which is a little bit different. Okay, so let's go to the preview control and do a little bit of a reminder of what we did. So there is the report. I'm probably over time, but I think in another 5 or 6 minutes we're going to get this to be completely done, because I want to show you from start to finish how this is going, how this works. Okay, so there is the report, right? Notice that we're going to have to make sure that we do this again, right? Instead of load from file, what did we do before? We did this little guy. Boom. And there it is. Okay. Whew. Okay, looks like we've got that going. Let's hit play. Nope, there's some problems. Let's see, report does not exist in current context. Okay, because I didn't change that. Let's go to any other errors. Report, looks like that's good. Let's rebuild. Nope, looks like we can't change that to string. Yep, makes sense. Rebuild. Okay, we're good. Okay, we've loaded it up. We're loading the report menu as we did before. Here is the preview. Let's go ahead and hit edit. Right, notice that we're taking the tag out as the report, F11, F11, oops, not F11. Looks like it has the report we want. We set it up. We reload it. When we reload it, we say, here's an extra report. What's the type? Oh, we're a person category. Are we an iReport? Why, yes, we are. Let's load it up. Let's hit refresh. And there it is. Oh, well, I don't see anything, but let's try that one more time. No, we don't want to save it. Let's go preview. Let's see if the preview works first of all. Uh-oh, looks like there's something not quite right. Oh, did I close the whole thing? Let's go ahead and step through it and make sure that everything is as we would expect. So let's go to edit. Let's go F11. Notice that the report is in there, right? Oh, I'm not loading the layout. Oh, derf. This is pretty simple. I can't just, I have to load the layout, right? I have to say report, so let's do a, we have to load the layout. So let me make a function to load layout, right? So we're going to say extra report. No, I can do it in line. Let me do it in line, and then if we need a method, we'll let CodeRush be smart for us. So we're going to say using var stream equals new memory stream. Right. The idea is I forgot to load the layout, right? Because it's not going to be able to load the report if it doesn't have the report itself, right? And the report comes from this report.content, right? Which is the bits. So what we're going to say is we're going to say report.load layout, and we're going to load it from the stream. And that's important, right? Because if we don't load the stream, it's like it doesn't know. Well, that's great, Seth, but tell me, where's the data? And so the same thing's happening here, right? We need to load the content of the actual things. Now, obviously, we can extract this out, but for time constraints, I would like to apologize and say I'll leave it like that for now. So when we load up the lame report, right, F11, here we go. It's a person report. Let's load it up. Let's load the layout. Thank you. Load the data source. Whew, life is good. Let's edit it now. And there it is. All right, so we went through the whole rigmarole of, oh, by the way, the field list, as you notice, is now happily populated, right, which is the important thing, which it wasn't before, right? We created our own way of actually going in there and editing it. We can create a new report, right? We can edit it and so on. So let's create a category report. Notice that this particular one, oh, yeah, see, it opens a new report designer. Notice that there's a name and a description. right? Let's go ahead and boom, got that. We can even insert a detail band for persons, right? And we can go like this, right? So let's hit save. Let's call it lame category report 1. Hit OK. Then we can close it. Right now, the preview should have the lame category report. F5. See that? Loaded it up just hunky-dory. No, we don't want to save it. This guy is now editable as well. F5. Let's change the font, for example, to something a little bit more interesting, like Verdana. Let's hit save. It's not going to let us save over it, I don't think. Yeah, see that? So we'll have to save a new one. Obviously, there's some fixes you can do to do that, but I think we're good. Right? Okay, now I'd like to open it up for questions. If there's anything that I've gone over that maybe is a little unclear, I did do a lot of stuff in a short amount of time. I wrote a couple of 100 lines of code and made this app actually have its own report sort of builder. So, all right, any questions?
We don't have any questions just yet. I have one. Why am I the old lady?
Okay.
You picked a really happy young man for your picture.
No, she's pretty attractive though. I mean, take a look.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't see. Look at that. Margaret looks great.
I prefer Nancy.
So,
Just
all right.
for the future.
So we're talking Nancy, right?
Yeah. Something's going on with her. She's interesting.
Hold on. Let's take a look at Nancy. Nancy? No, she has this devious look, like, hey, I'm going to steal something. She's probably at Starbucks right now, taking the carton of milk. Look at her. She's like, yeah, I got away with the carton of milk.
Oh,
Is that how
wow.
you are too, Miss Christensen?
I will not admit to that on
Okay, cool.
a
All right.
recorded.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah, no questions.
Well, let me review then, so that we can wrap this puppy up. Because people are either like, oh my gosh, that was a lot of code, or they're like, woo, look what I can do. Hopefully you are the former rather than the latter. But what we've done is I've showed you how to circumvent the saving and loading process of reports, right? Notice that we've circumvented it by having our own special thing, right? By the way, notice that if you open them here, you'll see a slight problem, and it's this field list thing is absent, right? Because we're not controlling how it's loading. But we're like, hey, we can roll with the punches because we can edit it inline, right? And when we're editing it inline, we can go ahead and load the data source ourselves, right? Until we did that. Notice that when you load it and are playing with this thing inline, the field list is hunky-dory. Last time, you remember, we actually made our own special tab for editing things in the program. So notice that it's inside of this mailings program already. So that's what we did with that. Notice that you can also view the reports like we did it before. These buttons are dynamically built, you remember, after every time a report is created. So we have the edit. No, we have the preview. I need to fix this too, so maybe I'll fix it when it's a demo. And then we have home where everything is in there. So my recap is pretty much this. We were able to write a new way to save and load reports and edit and preview them. I think that's a good summary.
Awesome. Thank you, Seth.
No problem.
All right. So next week, if you have questions, comments, or suggestions for our XPF team or the reporting team, Seth will be back next Wednesday with an Ask DevExpress webinar at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And Monday, February 21st, is a WPF and Silverlight Ask the Team with the XPF team and Emil Mesropian, the Silverlight Evangelist. And next Thursday, February 24th, using DevExpress controls to build a ribbon UI and dockable panels in Silverlight, again with Silverlight Evangelist Emil Mesropian. That's our lineup for next week, and we have webinars currently scheduled through March. Check them out at devexpress.com/webinars. And again, if you missed anything from this webinar or you want to review any of our previous webinars, visit us on the DevExpress channel at tv.devexpress.com. Again, thank you so much, Seth. Thank you all for joining us, and thank you for choosing DevExpress.